6 Canadian children will be able to leave a Syrian prison camp and return to Quebec, but their mother will not be allowed to accompany them. The children and their mother are among the many foreign nationals in Syrian camps run by Kurdish forces that reclaim the war-torn region from ISIS. Their mother is still undergoing a federal security assessment, and the federal government reportedly gave the Quebec woman the choice of whether her children would join other Canadians on an upcoming repatriation flight or remain with her in Syria. Lawyer Lawrence Greenspon is assisting the family, and he joins me now. Mr. Greenspon, the federal government recently agreed to repatriate 19 Canadian women and children held in Syrian detention camps. But this Quebec woman and her 6 children were not part of that agreement. Why is she singled out? What's the distinction here?
Well, we never anticipated that she would be singled out. At the time that we made the agreement with the Global Affairs Canada, which was just 24 hours actually before the federal court judge ruled in regards to the application that we brought in court. By that point in time, it had been several months earlier that all of the BOLO, which stands for Bring Our Loved Ones Home, all of the BOLO women and children, the 19 that you referred to, had received letters in November of 2022. They received letters saying that they were all eligible for assessment for repatriation. At the time, this Quebec mother, who was not a BOLO applicant before the court, at the time she received the very same letter for her and her 6 children. So we anticipated that she would be assessed and her children would be assessed, and that although they were not part of the agreement, that they would be treated along the same lines.
So what's happened now? She's undergoing, we're told, a federal security assessment. Is this, they're just being rigorous with her, they've been too slow with her, or is something else at play here?
They don't consult me at all about what they're doing in their assessment, no surprise, but it's, one thing is clear, they've had since November of last year to assess this woman, and I've been told that they've assessed the 6 children and they are going to be repatriated soon. And for some reason, they have not completed the assessment of Mom, and thus they presented her with this choice, which is, we'll take your children back to Canada, to the province of Quebec, where they have no family at all. So the 6 children would be taken into social services, separated into 3 groups of 2 children. So not only are these kids going to be taken from their mother, but they're going to be taken from their brothers and sisters as well. So that's the proposal that they've put to this mom, as saying, look, will you send your children back to Canada and you stay here? Or do you want us to just, leave them here in detention camp with you? A choice which violates every Canadian treaty and convention that Canada has ever signed on to internationally and human rights perspective.
I guess so. As a parent, I guess I could understand why you'd make that choice if you were a mother, right? To get them out of a detention camp. I mean, what kind of conditions have they been in this detention center?
Well, the camps, and keep in mind these children and women have been in these camps for in excess of 4 years now. The hygiene is awful. The access to fresh water and food is very limited. There are toxic fumes as a result of the kerosene heaters that are used. It's a tent city of 60,000 war refugees, women and children, and these conditions were described as dire by the federal court judge, Justice Brown. I think that's a polite way of saying they're horrific.
Do we know how this woman and her children ended up in this prison camp?
We don't know the specifics of it, but all of the women and children that are there from many different countries were effectively war refugees. When the war ended, these people were rounded up and placed in detention camps, and that's where they've been for, as I say, in excess of 4 years.
So what happens now? The children are going to come back here. They're going to be split up into pairs and put into foster services of some sort. What happens next with this woman, and what happens to the children if she's not able to return to Canada?
Well, if she's not able to return to Canada, then it may be that she will provide her consent to allow the children at least to come home. If, on the other hand, Global Affairs conducts an expedited emergency assessment of this woman, which they certainly have the person power to do that. If they did that, they would, I'm confident they would come to the conclusion that mom should be sent home with her kids.
Is it possible, is she in one of these cases, sir, where she could face criminal charges should she come back to Canada? We've seen this with some of the early repatriations. What do we know about the legal circumstances around this woman?
We don't have any indication one way or the other whether she would face either a terrorist peace bond application or charges under the criminal code. That's something that has not been disclosed to us at all, and it's certainly a possibility, but I couldn't really speculate on whether that's going to happen or not. That's really within Global Affairs Canada's purview.
Okay, and just as a final point, sir, what would you like to see the Government of Canada do next on this particular issue?
I'd like to see them live up to their international human rights obligations and their own policy framework, which says, "Thou shalt not separate mom from child," and bring our loved ones home. That would be the 6 children and their mom together.
Lawrence Greenspon, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Take care. Thanks for your interest.